My name is Tinungki. I'm 26 years old. I'm a registered nurse. I currently live in Loma, California and work at Loma Medical Center. But I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. I moved on here a few years ago. My parents who recently immigrated before I was born from Indonesia had come, and it was like in the early 90s when I was born. But we moved around a lot. We moved all over the country. After California, for like the first 1 to 2 years of my life, we then moved to New Jersey for like another couple of years, and that's where my sister was born. And I already had another sister, an older sister, so this is 2 sisters once we came to New Jersey. And then after that we moved to Denver, Colorado, then another sister was born, so I have 3 sisters. And now at the end of all that, we ended up settling in Washington State. And so yeah, I have a lot of females in my family. As far as my father, he passed away when I was 11 or 10 actually, before turning 11, due to cancer. But so my mom, for the most part, or for the latter half of my life, had raised me. Yeah, so I went to Southern Adventist University for college. Went to high school in Washington, then went to Southern. And then went to nursing school there. Found a travel nursing assignment here in Southern California. So I ended up moving here, and then I ended up staying here after finding a permanent job in Loma Linda Medical Center. So that's pretty much it. So I was born into the church. I was born Adventist into an Adventist home. And my family, being already Asian, you know, they're strict. They're kind of so even more strict with our Christian ideals. And so, but yeah, that's where I was introduced to Jesus, through my family, through my parents, and then through church, obviously, as I attended. But if you could say a personal encounter, I think, to me, I think I knew him, but I didn't really know him that deeply until I became of age, like maybe later in high school, and after, like, into college. That's when I had struggled with, like, you know, who Jesus is and like what my life is for. And so that's when I better understood who Jesus was, and I'd say that's a better encounter, or more full encounter of who Jesus is. Yeah, I think before fully knowing him, I think I was just kind of going by the motions, going through the motions. Especially as Christians, that seems like a common thing with us. And yeah, I didn't really have a reason behind a lot of things. I didn't really look into my faith as much as I should have. Now that I'm older, I see Jesus in a new light, and I have more intention of living. Like, I have more of a purpose and more of a background and reasoning as to why I'm living. I think one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point in my life, was right after graduation from Southern. I went into the workforce pretty soon. So I had finished in 2016 with my Associates of Nursing degree, and had to do the next step after finishing nursing school, which is to take the NCLEX, or the licensure exam, in order to work. And so I had to take that, but I was so stressed about taking that because it's a hard exam. Everyone says it's a hard exam. And so, however, at that time, I also was able to get a job on the conditional basis that I passed the exam. And I got everything kind of lined up for me right then and there. Like, I got a job, and it was in the ICU. It was right after school, and it was just with my associate's degree, and it was awesome. But when it came down to the time I had to take the NCLEX, I actually failed. And then from then on, it was kind of like a spiral down, sort of, and I just got very depressed. And then I finally did pass it in the next year, and I got the job again. So I had to, like, stay away from the job for a little bit, but then I was able to get the job again by God's grace. However, going into that year, my first year of work and going into the ICU, even though it was an idealistic thing, like, for me, it was actually very hard, because not only was I in the ICU, I was working nights, and it just really affected me physically, emotionally, and thus spiritually. And so I would be at, like, my lowest points, especially because at night, like, when I'm working, And then during the day when I'm sleeping, I feel like I'm missing out. I have this thing called FOMO. And it really hit hard for me when I was working nights as a nurse. And I thought like I was missing out on a lot of things, that my friends were doing things that I wish I could have done. And so I did my best to try to be engaged with people, which meant like sometimes sacrificing sleep. And so that, with all that, just kind of spiraled down to like a physical turmoil and emotional turmoil. And you know, when you're at your physical low or emotional low, it's not the easiest to get to God. And so I felt that correlate with my spiritual life. Like I was getting into more sin. I was looking down on my life, very depressed, almost kind of questioning like why am I like alive, like almost to that point. But yeah, it was a tough time at the time. I think his character and the consistency of it. Like despite me being all over the place and sinning and turning to him, then turning back, like regardless of what I've done, like how far I've went, what bad thoughts I've had, what sins I've done, like God is still there. Jesus is still there. Like he's consistent. Like he's still at the door. Like he's still waiting. So his love and his mercy and his forgiveness, despite my drawbacks. Joshua 1 verse 9 is a big Bible passage that I memorized early on, and it really speaks to me. It says, have not I commanded you, be strong and of good courage, be not afraid nor dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with you wherever you go. And this was said to Joshua before he was going into battle, but this can really apply to us. If God's character is constant, then what he said to Joshua can be said to us too in our lives. And yeah, this is a very strong passage for me because, as I said earlier, like I strayed away from God, and like, I mean, it's still a struggle now. I'm not perfect, but like whatever I do, wherever I go, God is still there. And so that's a very encouraging passage for me. I think first of all, I can say my mom. As I mentioned with God's character being consistent, she's been consistent. As a family, we've gone through a lot. I mentioned earlier that my father passed away when I was young due to cancer, and that left my mom with 3 children. And we were really young. My youngest sister was like 4, then it was 8, then I was 10, and then my oldest sister was like 15 at the time. So we were all young and growing and hormonal and whatever, you know, you can call it. But she was still resilient. And even till now, she's still the same, she's still loving. And so just to have that kind of person is a role model to me, just to know that like, despite your circumstance, you can still be resilient. And she's definitely someone that I look up to and I love. There's a couple like college people that have really directed me into a direction where it's successful, especially spiritually. And there's this guy named Leslie, and just a lot of other people. They've played different parts in my life, said different little things that have led me to a more correct path. And I would attribute it, yeah, to my Southern experience at Southern Adventist University. I've met a lot of great people, and they have like led me to becoming who I am today. I think I'd like to again go back to knowing that God is consistent, that his character is consistent, that he's always there for you. Despite how far you've gone, he's always there for you. And I think some people think that we just need to only just pray and just do our own thing within our own room and within ourselves. But as in the Bible, God sent people and he spoke through people. And there's people out there that are willing to listen, are willing to hear you out, pastors, your friends. When I was younger, I was not as vulnerable, and I was kind of afraid of like how people would perceive me if I were to reveal my secrets or tell my sins. But people are willing to listen, and as long as you come with a genuine heart that you want to do better, God will use other people to help you. And so basically my advice, in addition to God's consistent character, is to reach out to people. It's not a battle that you can just do on your own. You need God's help, and God can work through other people, so you should also seek other people as well.